Hello. Good morning. Good morning. I'm having these kind of rapid fire thoughts and it's not good. Well, the results are not good, but I kind of want to record them in sequence here. I had talked previously about the idea of people, or of these companies tracking us for the purpose of inception, actually, to give you an idea and make you think it's your own. And as I said earlier, if I can control the inputs, I will figure out a way to get the output that I want. And when I was talking about cities and governments, I can think smaller. I can even think down to voting districts, because voting districts have measurable results, and big data loves measurable results. So the idea that someone could go to a candidate and say, look at how many people voted in the last election. If we promote people in your area, your specific area, voting, then we can measure that will go up. Similarly, if we target the idea of trying to change or disincentivize your opponents, that's very measurable, very good, easy to measure results. The idea that you could get that granular is entirely possible. All of that said, so if I have a company, if I have Google and the federal government comes to me and says, I want to do this, give us access, it's easy to be like, okay, you're one of our partners and you pay us, and then we share data because you're a partner. But if you get to that kind of granular level, I don't know, where you actually have like salespeople actively courting all of these people with their Congress yard signs, everyone's trying to win something for something. Probably making a lot of money this season, actually. But not even to be able to say, we're going to turn the election entirely around for you, but to say, we're going to give you a 5% boost, or we can verifiably give you a 5% or 10% boost. 10%'s a lot. A lot. And every percent matters in a lot of these races. So it's, maybe you target individuals. I don't think you have a sales team, an army of people going forth, contacting, reaching out to all these people, leaving trails of, Google can help you win your election. Because that seems like that would be tipping the hand a bit much. The other kind of realization that I had had yesterday while I was talking to my wife about this was the question of how would I do it. And with the lovely hacker background that I have, it made it kind of an interesting puzzle. So what I would do, most people and most security analysts are looking for, and this is a thing, like, I'm talking into a phone, it's an Android phone, it's recording this information, and it would be very easy to scan this video for some metadata, for speech, run it through some speech recognition. It would have to be on Wi-Fi. It would have to keep track of how much data was uploaded, which is, maybe you can hide that, maybe you can't, I'm not sure. But having an internal speech engine that kind of runs over this stuff and gets data off of it might be useful. The thing that Google wrote Android, and it is by no means exhaustively searched. By no means. I don't think that that's the case almost at all. Maybe the obvious stuff is looked for, yeah, but I highly doubt that all of this has been gone through. The other thing is, security researchers look for outgoing data. So this phone is providing a service for me, it's aggregating data, it's presenting it for me, it's providing a good user interface and an operating system, and I ask it to download data from time to time, and it brings data in. What I'm interested in is data going out. What's going out? What is that data and who is it going to? So normally what would happen is, let's say Motorola made the OS, and then I can monitor on a network level what data comes out of the phone. And if I've got data going here and there, and I'm browsing this website, and I've got this service running or something, or it's checking my email, and then boom, Motorola.com comes up with a bunch of encrypted data or some unencrypted data. It doesn't matter. The question is, why did it just hit Motorola? Why did that happen? So that throws up red flags. But what I would do is, if I had a company like Google is literally I don't want to say literally, basically everywhere online, everywhere. Any place that uses AdWords, there's going to be a Google request. Any place that uses, there's even a lot of JavaScript engines, there's a Google request. Like that's going out there. And a lot of this stuff is hosted on Google because, hey, it's free, whatever. And Google's providing a service. So basically, if you hit any kind of website, you can expect almost constant jabber to Google. So it actually took years for people to find the HTC keylogger thing that was just blasting every keystroke that you pressed, like the second you pressed it, which is just kind of a dumb way of doing things, which is why I didn't really suspect malice in whatever that was. But if I were Google, I would, or Windows, actually, Microsoft, Windows 10, that kind of thing. Since the object is to gather information about the user himself or herself, I would collect that data, parse it into something that's pretty easy to reduce, or at least break it down into chunks. I'm not going to record literally everything that you type, although technically that's probably not that much data. Maybe. I might reduce that input. I'd keep track of it. You can keep track of literally everything someone types, especially on an OS level. Certainly everything that gets typed into a browser. Something as encompassing of input as a browser. Keep track of it. Either reduce it to metadata of, he typed the word the 100 times. You don't have to keep track of how many times he writes the word the, or even down to phrases, stuff like that, which I'm sure you've noticed Google's, the new Gmail autocomplete, that thing. And once I have that data, instead of sending a giant, hey, I'm sending a bunch of data to Motorola for some reason, unrequested, who knows what it is, that's a big red flag. What you do is you slowly leak it in a trickle, and every time you get, Google AdWords.com, some packets get sent that communicate this information, but also, a few packets of metadata goes through. That's how you just kind of leak it out. And it looks like completely normal traffic. You would have to break it down entirely, but you're still encrypting it the entire way. You would have to this might be an interesting exercise for someone who's capable of this. You would have to track the key exchange on the initial HTTPS request, and then track the data going out, and then decrypt it, and then figure out what it is. Which I think some tools can do if they're there for the initial key exchange. But who knows when that change takes place. This is Google we're talking about. I mean, what is it? Google installer. There's all these like helper apps and stuff and different ways to send data to Google. It's all just kind of hanging out. Why there's not a Google Chrome.exe that you just install. There's, if I recall correctly, there's a getchrome.com, and then you download the Google Chrome installer, then you run the Google Chrome installer, then it downloads it for you and executes it itself. In the case of an OS like Chrome OS or Windows 10 or something like that, you can save that data as much as you want. The update schedule, that is a period of time during which the user is not expected to engage with the computer. So you can send, 100 megs of plain text data, which is a lot of plain text data. So you can save all that up, and that user doesn't have to be any the wiser. You're not going to see this little trickle of information going out, going, "Oh, what's with this bug?" It's just going to be sitting there collecting everything up into a big ball, parsing it down and pulling the metadata out of it, and either trickling it back to Microsoft, which is Microsoft certainly has plenty of services that can keep track of all this stuff. Either that or the next Windows update that comes out, well, you're going to be downloading a big thing. Well, maybe you're uploading some stuff too. Who knows? There is the problem of upload speed, which is generally pretty different from download speed. But, bits? Background intelligent transmission service or something like that. It does large downloads over time. You're getting those big downloads, but you're probably getting some uploads. If you want to get really nasty about it, you could talk about excess space in the datagrams that get sent over on transmission requests in TCP/IP. You're like, hey, let's initiate a handshake, and there's a few extra bytes in there or something like that. You can leak stuff for years. It doesn't matter. That's certainly how I would do it. It would be basically undetectable unless you were actively, you would have to account for every packet. This program is running this request, and this is the packet that got sent out for it. Well, wait, why is there an extra packet? Let's scrutinize this packet. Where is it going to? What is the contents of its data? It's likely encrypted. They wouldn't send it in the plain text. I shouldn't say that. Maybe they would. Who knows? Security is weird. It's a weird field. Yeah, that's how I would do it. And this opens up the horrifying possibility of literally capturing everything. Literally everything. Imagine that. Your iPhone, your any smartphone device, really, and possibly any Microsoft device, any laptop. There's chips and monitoring stuff. All of the Intel has its own secret sauce, and it's building more and more. Like network interfaces are processed on the CPU level. Oh, we're just adding more features to it. It's like you're making it harder to find this stuff, to understand it, to break it down. And that's always something that's a proclivity that I've had. That's why I don't like those frameworks, like the blog frameworks and all that stuff. I want to see what you're doing. I want to see how it's doing it. I want to understand it. And that's to my detriment in some cases. But more layers that I don't understand just means more layers that stuff can wedge itself into. That's why WordPress is such a huge mess at this point. The plugins and vulnerabilities and questionable third-party stuff. I was offered a job that was basically I shouldn't say I wasn't offered it. I interviewed for it. They put me through on rounds of interviews, whatever, for a job basically doing nothing but figuring out if PHP WordPress plugins were secure or not. Figuring out problems with them. So when you build that framework, you're adding this level of abstraction that you don't know what's going on behind the scenes, and when that's happening, who knows what's happening, really. Plus, frameworks are, who knows what happens with frameworks. The framework turns to garbage and you can't use it anymore, falls out of favor, hit with patent lawsuits, stuff like that, cease and desists, gets renamed, drops features, forces upgrades, all that stuff. And then all that knowledge, especially if you took a job working on one of those frameworks. Like, I've been working on this for 5 years. Cool. Well, the framework just died, and no one uses it anymore. Oh, okay. Well, that's 5 years of experience just vanished because all of my knowledge was specific to that thing. That stinks. I did work on a specific app. But I did, wherever you can, look to increase your skills. Always try to make that move into something that you're interested in. Make it work for your boss, obviously, but I never would have gotten into Selenium WebDriver. I wouldn't have had the time or drive. It was really annoying to start out. But I wouldn't have gotten into it if it wasn't for Lexmark. There was an opportunity there. And I was talking to my boss. I'm like, look, this is ridiculous. We need to automate this. Said, okay, go ahead. And that was like weeks of almost doing nothing else. But we got what we wanted, and I learned a lot. So, wherever there's an opportunity to learn stuff that transfers, the project is you. The only project you should be working on. Yeah. So, like, everything. And I've said this before, that I don't think that there will be any secrets. The Bible says what you whisper in secret will be shouted from the rooftops, and I believe that day will come. Not even necessarily in a biblical sense. I mean that there will just be a time when there will be no more secrets. And when that day comes, how ready are you going to be? So imagine that everything is tracked, all of it. And that you are so well understood that the concept of the potential for inception, to put an idea in your head that you think is original or your own, is possible. Very nasty.